Hey everyone, it's Cal here from Wise Guys Tutoring. So we're going to keep going with our topic of fractions, and we're going to keep going today with multiplication. So let's get started. Now, to multiply fractions, let's write that here. So now we're working on multiplication. It's actually very easy. All you have to do is multiply your numerators together and your denominators together. So let's say I have something like this, 2/5 times 1/3. All you need to do is multiply the top together. So these two guys together goes here, gives me 2. And your bottom two together goes here, gives me 15. That's the answer. That's it. There's nothing much to it at all. I'll give you another example just to make sure you got the concept. So let's say I have 7/9 times 2/11. So I multiply these two guys, the numerators, the top guys together, gives me 14. And the bottom guys together, 9 times 11, gives you 99. That's it. We're done. Now, there is, a special case, you can call it. For example, if I were to tell you 3/9 times 4. Now, 4 is an integer. So let me remind you that a fraction is actually a division. Right? So when you don't see anything, it means that your denominator is 1. Okay? Why? Because if I'm assuming it's a division, which it actually essentially is, 4/1 is exactly the same as 4. So I haven't done anything. I've just kind of rewritten the integer as a fraction. And that's the way that you do it. Now, that we have two numerators and two denominators, we're going to do the exact same thing, and we're going to say that you multiply the top by the top, gives you 12, and you do the bottom by the bottom, and it gives you 9. So the answer here will be 12/9. And here's another point I'd like to remind you. If you were to leave it as 12/9, most teachers will probably tell you that's incorrect, and it's simply because it's not simplified. And if you remember, we can simplify these, right? We can divide the top and the bottom by 3, which is a common factor for both, to get 4/3. And now this is the most simplified version of your answer. So that would be the best format to put it in. This will leave no chance for anybody to mark you wrong or anything like that. Okay. We'll do a couple of more examples now. So let's try something else here. So let's say we have something a little more difficult. Let's say we have 12/13 and you're multiplying this by 1/4. Okay? I know it's not terribly complicated, but because I like to save you guys time and less chance to make mistakes when we simplify early, I want to show you this trick. So because I have a 12, you can recognize here that you have a 12 and a 4, right? So this fraction, as we know, we multiply the top by the top, and we multiply the bottoms by the bottoms. And we also know that multiplication is commutative. So I can actually go ahead and just kind of switch over these two, the positions of those two numbers. So I can go ahead and say 4 times 13. And the reason I've rewritten it this way is just to show you guys that you have two numbers here that can be simplified, right? The 12 and the 4, they have common factors between them, which is a 4. So what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna simplify them as a 3 and a 1. And if you're wondering how I've done that, all I've done is divided both numbers by 4. Okay, so this cleans up to be 3 times 1/1 times 13. And this answer is already simplified. Now, you could have done the multiplication yourself, right? We could have done it the quote-unquote long way. And if we multiply the top by the top, we'd get 12. And if you multiply the bottoms, you'd get 52. But now you'd have to simplify this. So maybe you divide, top and bottom by 2 maybe, and you would get 6/26, and then you'd probably divide again by 2 on both top and bottom, and then you'd get 3/13. But this way is faster and it's cleaner. Like I said, this is a basic example, but you might get you might get something else. Let's take an example similar to the previous one, but let's make it a little bit uglier. Again, I'm just exaggerating to prove my point. So let's say it's 12 over 13 times 1 over 24. Now you don't really want to be, multiplying 13 by 24, or maybe you do, and if you want to, that would give you 312. But now you have to simplify this guy, and again, you're probably dividing by top and bottom by 3 or something, and you would get 4 over 104. Then maybe you divide by 2, and you would get 2 over 52, and then you can divide again by 2 and by 2, and you would get 1 over 26. Now let's do what I had proposed, which is we simplify before we calculate this, before we compute. So if you notice, these two guys here have common factors, right? The 12 and the 24. And because one of them's on top and one of them's on bottom, and we have multiplications on top and on bottom, that means I can reduce this one and reduce this one. The 12 will become a 1 because essentially I'm dividing both by 12. I get 1 on top and 2 on the bottom. So this cleans up to be 1 times 1 and 13 times 2, which is 1 over 26. You see, this is a lot cleaner, a lot faster, and I'm not trying to just save you guys time, I'm trying to save you points. The more steps you add, the more chance you have to make a mistake. So you need to be efficient. You need to choose the most efficient path. Now, if you're really, dead set on doing this way, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong. You'd be totally correct. But if you're comfortable doing this bottom way with the simplification before, I highly recommend it. Okay. Let's do one more example of this so maybe you guys can further see the benefit of what I'm talking about. So let's say we have 18 over 22 times 11 over 27, right? So these are some pretty ugly numbers to multiply. So let's try to simplify first. I notice at first is that 11 and 22 have common factors, right? So if I divide the top and the bottom by 11, that would give me 1 here and 2 here, right? And I also noticed that 18 and 27 have a common factor, which is 9. So I can divide both of these guys by 9, leaving me with a 2 on top and a 3 on the bottom. Now this simplifies to 2 times 1 and 2 times 3. You can even see that top and bottom, these two will cancel out, right? Because they undo each other. And you end up with a simple answer of 1/3. And that didn't take a lot of steps. It took very simple arithmetic. I didn't have to multiply 22 by 27 and all kinds of, weird stuff. So I recommend you simplify every single time before you get started. Now, just to remind you, the reason why this works is because, we can always rewrite those since it's, you multiply the numerators and you multiply the denominators, and we know multiplication is commutative, so I can pretty much change the order without affecting anything. And that's where the simplification comes into play. If you notice, these two can be simplified together and these two can be simplified together. You can basically treat them like fractions, and the equivalent fraction of this one is 2 over 3, and the equivalent fraction of the other one is 1 over 2, right? So that's where the simplification comes from. If you want to just know how to do it, then just find the two that you recognize have similar common factors rather, and just divide them by that common factor. So for the 18 and 27, we divided both by 9, and for the 11 and 22, we divided both by 11. So that's the end of the video. Thanks a lot for watching. As usual, like the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next one where we'll be showing you how to do division of fractions. Thanks, guys.